Hey everyone, and welcome back. Are you ready to dive into something truly bizarre?
I know I am.
This one comes straight from listener suggestions, and it's a real head-scratcher. We're going to be looking at a Mr. Ballin episode.
Ooh, I love Mr. Ballin.
You do. This one's called Unbreakable, Powers Born from Pain.
Okay.
And what makes this one so fascinating is it's not just some creepypasta or urban legend.
Right.
9 people officially testified that these events happened,
Wow.
including law enforcement.
That's what always gets me with these stories. When you have people who are generally considered reliable, like police officers, saying they witnessed something truly strange, it really makes you question what's possible.
Exactly. It makes you think maybe there are things out there we just don't fully understand.
For sure.
Okay, so let's set the stage.
Right.
1983, Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
We're at a funeral. Somber occasion, right?
Of course, yeah.
Except for one guy, Don Decker.
Okay, what about Don?
He's attending his grandfather's funeral while on temporary leave from prison.
Oh, interesting. Already sounds like there's some tension there.
Yeah, and he is not handling it well.
I mean, funerals are tough enough as it is, but being on leave from prison and attending your grandfather's funeral, that's got to be a whole other level of complicated.
He's angry, scowling at everyone, just not fitting in with the whole mourning vibe.
Right, right.
And then things take a weird turn.
Okay, what happens?
Don claims to see his deceased grandfather's lips moving,
Like, as if he were still alive.
as if he were still alive.
Whoa, hold on. Can you imagine being in that situation? You're already on edge, you're at a funeral, and then you see something like that?
It would freak you out for sure.
Absolutely. Could it be a grief-induced hallucination? Or is there something more to it?
Who knows? But Don is definitely creeped out.
Understandably so.
He decides to skip the post-funeral gathering at the house and heads over to his friend's place, Bob and Jeannie Kyer.
Makes sense. Probably just needed to get out of there, get some space from everything.
Yeah, probably hoping for a little normalcy, right?
Yeah.
Just trying to lay low until he has to go back to prison.
Sure.
But things don't exactly go as planned at Bob and Jeannie's house.
Oh no. What happens?
Don goes upstairs to use the bathroom,
Okay.
and while he's washing his face, he suddenly feels the room get freezing cold.
That's creepy. It's like the temperature just dropped out of nowhere.
And as if that wasn't weird enough, he looks up in the mirror and sees an old man wearing a crown.
Whoa. Hold on. That's seriously creepy. And who was this old man?
Don later said it was his grandfather.
His dead grandfather.
His dead grandfather.
This is getting stranger by the minute.
Oh, and did I mention the scratches?
What scratches?
Don discovers deep scratches all over his wrists.
Okay, now that's just unsettling. Like, where did they come from?
No explanation.
Don't tell me.
He tries to shrug it off, though, and goes to join Bob and Jeannie for dinner.
Okay.
But he's super withdrawn.
Oh,
Quiet.
right. Like he's carrying the weight of all this weirdness on his shoulders.
Totally. After dinner, he's just sitting in the living room with Bob, but he's not really there,
Oh. I get it, yeah.
just kind of staring blankly at the floor.
Hmm.
And that's when Bob starts hearing a sound, like running water.
Running water. Okay, this is where things start to get really strange.
It goes from creepy to full-blown bizarre.
Yeah.
At first, Bob thinks maybe someone spilled something,
Makes sense.
but then he feels a drop of water on his head
Ah.
and realizes it's coming from the ceiling.
Wait, what? Like a leak?
Not just a drip,
Yeah.
a full-on downpour.
Are you serious?
Water is pouring from the ceiling and walls.
Oh my gosh, like the house itself is crying. So where's Dawn during all of this?
Still just sitting on the couch, totally unresponsive.
Wait, so he doesn't react at all to this sudden indoor rainstorm?
Witnesses said he was in a trance-like state,
That's so creepy.
with this eerie smile on his face,
And his fingers.
constantly wiggling.
Oh, that sends chills down my spine. This is getting seriously unsettling. Like something out of a horror movie.
Bob is understandably freaking out at this point.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. It's way beyond a leaky faucet situation now.
So what do?
Call a plumber.
They call the police.
To police.
Yeah, they're totally bewildered by the scene.
Can you imagine? You're a cop. You've probably seen a lot of crazy stuff. But you walk into a house and it's raining inside with a guy sitting there smiling and wiggling his fingers.
It's not exactly your everyday call.
Not at all. It's like something out of the Twilight Zone.
So what do the cops do?
I don't know. What do?
They tell Bob to call a plumber.
Seriously. They just leave it at that.
Apparently.
So Bob and Jeannie are just stuck with this flooded living room and a creepy, unresponsive Dawn.
And no answers whatsoever. They spend the next 2 days cleaning up, calling more plumbers.
And I'm guessing the plumbers were just as confused.
Completely baffled. And all the while, Don is just sitting there in that unsettling state.
And then,
Then, out of nowhere, he snaps out of it.
just like that.
Just like that. Gets up, walks out of the house without a word, and the
Oh.
water stops.
It's like he was the source of it all along.
But Don's temporary leave from prison is over. He has to go back.
Uh-oh, here we go again.
And guess what? The weirdness doesn't stay at Bob and Jeannie's house.
It follows him back to prison.
Back to prison.
Oh, no.
So Don's back behind bars. You'd think, okay, things will go back to normal now, right?
Yeah, you'd hope so. Back to routine, back to some sense of order.
But not this time. Remember, we're in Mr. Balin territory here.
Right, where the strange and unusual are the norm.
Don ends up sharing a cell with this guy, right?
Yeah.
And his cellmate takes one look at Don and is absolutely terrified.
Yearly. Like, freaked out.
This is the guy who's probably seen it all, you know?
Yeah, you'd think so, being in prison.
And he's begging the guards to move him, get him away from Don.
Wow. What was it about Dawn that was so scary?
It's like whatever happened at Bob and Jeannie's house, it changed him somehow.
Yeah, like something more than just being shaken up, you know?
And then Don says something that really chills everyone to the bone.
What did he say?
He says, I can make it rain.
Whoa, hold on a second. That's creepy. And after everything that already happened, it's like, is he messing with his cellmate or does he actually believe it?
And as if to prove his point,
Uh-oh.
moments later, water starts pouring from the ceiling of his cell.
Seriously, just like at the house.
It's like a repeat performance, but even more intense.
The water's coming from the ceiling again.
The ceiling, the walls, even the bars of the cell.
How is that even possible? What are the guards saying?
They're just as baffled as everyone else.
I mean, this is where it really crosses the line from bizarre to just unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
You have all these witnesses, not just Don's cellmate, right?
Exactly. It's not just one person's word against another.
The guards see it.
The guards see it, the warden sees it.
Wow.
Even the prison minister sees it.
Okay, that's a lot of people. And these are people we usually consider pretty reliable.
Right. It's not some mass hallucination or anything.
Yeah. So they call a plumber, right? To the prison cell.
They call plumbers, they inspect everything, nothing. No source for the water.
So there's absolutely no logical explanation for where this water is coming from.
None whatsoever.
This is where it starts to feel like something beyond our understanding is happening, right? And what about the minister? He's seen it all. What does he think?
The minister believes that Don is possessed.
Possessed. Wow. It's fascinating how people reach for those kinds of explanations when faced with something they can't explain, right?
He actually tries to perform an exorcism on Don.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Right there in the prison cell?
Oh, there in the prison cell, reading from the Bible, trying to drive out whatever he thinks has taken hold of Don.
And how does Don react to this?
Don, who has been totally silent and withdrawn this whole time,
Yeah.
lets out this gut-wrenching scream, like pure anguish.
Man, that must have been terrifying to hear.
And then he collapses to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably.
It's like whatever had a grip on him finally let go.
And the water stops.
So it's over. Just like that.
It's over, for now at least. Eventually, Don opens up to Bob and Jeannie and tries to explain what happened.
Okay, so what's his explanation for all of this?
So Don's explanation, what did he say, caused all this?
Well, that's pretty heavy stuff. He revealed that he had been abused by his grandfather for years.
Abused, as in,
Physically abused, starting when he was just 7 years old.
oh wow, and he never told anyone.
Kept it secret his whole life. And seeing everyone at the funeral praising his grandfather,
Yeah.
it just brought all that anger and resentment back up to the surface.
So he was already a powder keg going into that funeral.
Exactly. And remember that moment when he thought he saw his grandfather's lips moving?
Yeah.
Don believes that's when his grandfather's spirit possessed him.
Possessed him.
Yeah, like took control of his body and mind.
Okay, so he's saying his grandfather's spirit caused all of this.
That's his explanation. He said he felt like something else was in control, making him do and say things he didn't want to.
So the vision in the bathroom. The old man with the crown.
He believes that was his grandfather, too.
Wow.
And the scratches on his wrists.
Yeah, those were pretty freaky too.
He thinks those were inflicted by his grandfather's spirit as well.
So like a physical manifestation of the torment.
Exactly. It's like his pain, his rage, it somehow spilled out into the physical world.
It's a pretty wild story, but it does kind of connect the dots, right? The abuse, the vision, the strange behavior, the water.
It's definitely a compelling narrative. And it makes you wonder, could there be a link between trauma and, I don't know, latent abilities, like some kind of power that emerges under extreme stress.
It's a fascinating idea, but is that really what happened here?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do we explain water, literally defying gravity, pouring from surfaces with no plumbing?
Yeah, that's pretty hard to explain away.
And remember, all those witnesses saw it too. Not just Don and his friends, but people you'd expect to be pretty skeptical.
Police officers, the warden, even the minister, they all saw it.
So we're left with a pretty big mystery here.
A mystery with no easy answers.
Exactly. But maybe that's what makes these stories so intriguing, right? They force us to question what we think we know about the world.
To consider possibilities that lie outside our comfort zones.
Right. They remind us that we don't have all the answers, and that's okay.
The world is full of mysteries, and maybe that's part of what makes it so beautiful and terrifying at the same time.
Well said.
This has been a wild ride. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the strange case of Don Decker.
And if this story has piqued your curiosity, keep exploring. There are countless other accounts of unexplained phenomena out there just waiting to be discovered.
So keep those suggestions coming, keep an open mind, and until next time, stay curious.